now, and I can tell you what's happening. But the bare necessities did resolve and discard BDeCandio's Seven Dwarfs Mine, and we're still on KAWA's turn. So if you're able to view the stream, here we go. Perfect. We didn't skip a beat. So just as where we picked off, the bare necessities, it did discard the Seven Dwarfs Mine.
He didn't,
and it's going back.
He just had to play the aerial. Okay, he had just played aerial, so he was not able to also play the Sudden Chill to get the last card. That's unfortunate.
Correct. Yeah, no, it wasn't able to be played. Happy trades into Sir Hiss quite well here, and you're going to see Piglet and Smee go in for the quest. Lawrence gets played, and there is no damage because that Piglet's a captain, and that's something that people will have to remember if you're playing the combination here. The captain classification here is going to prevent the damage on Smee, and KAWA's next draw, can't see it yet, but
so I think DeCandio's hand cam is broken, which would be the only reason why his card is face down.
Agreed.
So we're gonna lose half sight.
That's fair. That's fair. But it's an interesting because we're just looking from.
Maybe.
There we go. It's the daisy.
I don't know how we saw it or what it was from. Maybe his hand sight isn't broken.
That's a good point. So, do you expect KAWA to sing a song here? He has to, right? Because there's a lot of lore on the board. Something's got to give.
No, I don't think he will.
Well, no, that's going to be lethal.
4, 5, 6. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to.
Yes, he has to. I had to count really quick. I was like, oh.
There's no way you don't bounce. He's gonna have to respect Under the Sea as well. So there will be a trade. We're gonna see Lawrence or Smee come in to remove this aerial, and that has to happen. I don't think you can disrespect Under the Sea here. If I were DeCandio, and of course,
interesting how he has to hit Kita.
Yeah, and that is 100% true. Nikita had to have. Okay, he drew Rapunzel like a Amber Steel goon himself would do. Is draw Rapunzel off the top of the deck, and I think that's the writing on the wall here. We're gonna see this game go BDeCandio 1-0. If you're just joining us, we saw a early start from BDeCandio that is carrying his victory here. KAWA, I believe, is dead to rights.
So we can challenge the Lauren. No, that takes our character down. So we can challenge the Smee and then play Storm. Oh, the Storm is in. I was thinking DeCandio or KAWA had the Storm in his hand. I was like, we can deal 2 damage to the Lawrence and then bounce it. It's like, no. We're not playing Emerald Steel. We're playing Emerald Amber. Yeah.
If you needed to, you can reduce Lawrence's strength, challenge it, and then try to
But we can't bounce.
Yeah.
We have to do this first.
Okay. So he's probably going to hit Smee and Lawrence.
Yeah. And bounce the daisy.
He drew another bear. But he's only at 5 ink. He's only at 5 ink, right? He already played 2. There's no 1-cost songs. Spot. No, not at all. This is rough.
He did ink already?
He did. He inked the Ursula. So he could play Bare Necessities here. We'll rip the Storm Rage and then bounce the Rapunzel, challenge into Smee.
Oh.
Such a bad spot, man. Such a bad spot.
I don't think there's any way you could get your way out of this.
You can just, slow the bleed here, right? He's going to be able to bounce Rapunzel, and the
Probably
muses
bounces the Smee.
then take
Maybe
down the
Rapunzel
Smee
costs
here with
more.
1 damage.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know why I was thinking.
Rapunzel's the only target. So
It's just,
does he not challenge? It doesn't matter if he challenges or not. Definitely, taking out the Smee here. So maybe he wants BDeCandio to go for a trade and then decide to draw cards so he doesn't gain lore this turn. I still think no matter what BDeCandio decides to do, he can't lose this game, right? The Doc just drew for turn.
to like hit like a storm, that like an uninkable song that he draws. Like I'm assuming DeCandio well, he might actually keep the storm because he has the Cindy. This is that's a good hand. This is a good hand, that is for sure. But it's tough. He might still get rid of the storm because if KAWA doesn't play anything on turn 1, what is DeCandio going to do? Storm his Cindy? Storm his... I mean, he could storm his Daisy, but most likely KAWA's first character could be an Ursula too. And if that's the case, the storm is not good. And maybe that's what he's going like, oh, maybe I don't even want this, right? He's only getting rid of the storm.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That was a very, very, I think, perfect
Heads
mulligan. Up. You have exactly what you want. You have ink, you have Doc, you have 1s and 2s.
Yeah, like I was saying, is like the way for KAWA to win is for his things to hit. And this hand doesn't get hit by Bare Necessity. It doesn't get hit by
2-drop
Ursula.
Ursula.
We'll see. Maybe. Did he mole a storm to draw a storm? Like another character. And a pretty good curved character.
Yes.
Like,
but we see the 1-drop Diablo, the shift, the action. Ooh, we're going to have an actual game here, guys. I like this a lot. And you get a lot of information from this 1-drop Diablo. He's going to see that these characters are, the happy in there too. The happy is a scary answer. And this deck doesn't have Let the Storm Rage On or Strength of a Raging Fire. You're not able to get rid of that happy. It's going to check the Diablo.
Yeah.
Another dock. All right. So I like. Right.
For a split second, that happy had evasive for just a second and was like, oh, I'm drawing cards off of Diablo. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, happy is an excellent check here to Diablo.
It's honestly, I personally probably would have shifted and been like, sure, you want to trade happy with that? I am more than happy to play this Diablo on turn 3 or 4. And like, because if it's going to trade anyways, I might as well keep the extra ink in hand.
I agree. And now he draws another Diablo. So we could see him run out this second Diablo here and decide to quest with the original one. But I'm not too sure if that's the play you want to make. Again, the longer the game goes, the more it's in KAWA's favor. And if you're going to make the game go longer, you're going to have to force the BDeCandio to do something. You can't just sit there and go back and forth. He won't. So I think this is a better line. If you find the Under the Sea, you pretty much threaten the whole board, and there's no answer to that. And like you said, you can't whiff. You can't miss. And you definitely can't see the Simpsons come up in the split second. But for all intents and purposes, that was what was needed here. And he doesn't have enough ink to play that and move the happy. So it might just be a quest with all your glimmers here and see what the daisy nets him. So he gets the Ursula, which is just ink. Happy's going to actually have to quest here. And Lawrence dodges Under the Sea, and there's no Kita to be worried about. So I think that's a line you take.
Yeah, this way you can answer the aerial.
Absolutely.
It's quite unfortunate, but he still has the dock. And depending on what he draws, he might just play Mind Dock. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's the play you make 100% of the time. The deck is pretty much functioning like a toolbox deck, and you want to be a control deck at the same time too. So being able to bounce and replay your characters is what this deck, I think, is
So
always trying to do.
BDeCandio has no discard. I'm still kind of. I need to try to remember to ask KAWA why he shifted that Diablo.
We got notes that we're taking over here, boys. Don't worry. But the card drawn off the Diablo draw was the Cricky, and if it's any card to find, it's a card that literally says, "I can get rid of your location in one swing," and the Ursula 2 drop might be something to consider keeping now. I like having a bunch of little guys on the board and then slamming down a Cricky, because you get to kind of have a bunch of buff characters for a turn. And he's thinking about playing the Dock and the Mine. And then, that will threaten the Diablo, so it will force the Cricky. So who knows? Does he actually discard the Dock and draw 2? I think is what he's thinking. And yeah, he doesn't want to do that and give Diablo free card draw. All right. You're welcome here. And I still don't know how I feel about this card in the deck, but it could come up, being able to remove the Seven Dwarfs Mine. What do you expect KAWA to do here? Because if he does play Cricky, both characters have to go into the mine, and that leaves his muses open to a challenge from the Lawrence.
So sing the song, but no. Yeah, I think this is fine. It is unfortunate if Lawrence takes out our muses, but the Cricky just then finishes off the Lawrence, and I think we care way, like, our hand as KAWA is just absurd.
Mm-hmm. We did find a strength here, and that can answer the Diablo. You can decide to sing it with Lawrence and then draw 2 with Dock, safely avoiding the Diablo triggers here, but gives up the option to remove the muses. So it's not what we're going to do. Muses is too important of a card, and you got to take every opportunity you have to remove warded characters in this deck. And we're going to see him quest with it too. But yeah, the Lawrence gets traded in for free with the Cricky, and you have muses now and can sing Bruno. So,
top decking another muses is pretty good.
Yeah, muses is, I think, going to be a very important card for KAWA in this matchup. Being able to bounce daisies, piglets, happies. You can't run out of removal.
So something BDeCandio is going to have to get used to, and other people, is, I don't know if you noticed, but he readied all of his ink at the end of turn. And we're not going to be able to do that. There's more and more character abilities coming into play that basically say, when this comes into play, do something. And there's cards like Mufasa, and there's just more things like that interacting, that eventually it's just going to be like, no, you're supposed to leave them exerted, because we don't know what could happen. Like, there very well could be a card that's like banish target character an opponent controls, they reveal the top card of their deck if it's a character put into play exerted, right? Like, imagine like a 2-cost card that does that. Yep, here comes the Cricky cleanup.
Yes. So yeah, good point there, Luke. Oh yeah, when I saw him hit the sudden chill off the aerial, I knew what was happening. You predicted the Dock was in the hand, and so the cards were going KAWA's way here this game for sure. He found the Shift Diablo, he found Aerial, found Under the Sea, got to play the game, and this is looking like it will go KAWA's way, but It takes about a few turns to do it. So
yeah, I thought
there's not enough lore on BDeCandio's side, I think, to be able to capitalize on that. But
I thought this game was over when that happy was there, but that top decked Under the Sea / the Under the Sea found off of the aerial was just so good.
yes, Muse is coming into play here. You're just going to sing Bruno, bounce back the aerial. If we have an ink this turn, we can ink and replay the aerial.
I think we would play the dock or
the Diablo.
The Diablo if we haven't inked yet. Like, because we want to get that online, and we have 7 ink, so we can afford to play the aerial and grab whatever threat we find out we need. Because we want to have max information before we play a card like the aerial. Good. It's getting really close to point. Scoop phase for DeCandio.
All right, well, Pluto was like very good draw, but I think with Ariel being able to find cards like we don't talk about Bruno, it poses a major threat. Ariel here is going to find, even what's the card? Painting the Roses Red wouldn't be the worst here because you can.
It's a song.
You could. It's a song, but it also allows you to bounce back your own characters. So you can like quest with it, bounce it, replay it. You can reduce the cost of the Cricky to bounce it back, which I like a lot. But an Under the Sea found here means any sort of, top deck dock into 2 more little guys doesn't really help him. He's inking the Ursula, which is interesting. I don't know if you would want to play it just to have the body and make that countdown go a lot quicker. You might not want to quest with the Cricky here because the Pluto definitely covers it, but who knows?
He might just so the Pluto gets eaten by the Under the Sea.
True.
So it's like, yeah, you can take out my Cricky, but yeah, I mean, but if we're DeCandio, we're just going to top deck the Rapunzel right here for all of North America.
He's got to be okay with that. We got a Diablo to say, hey, you draw 3? Me too.
He just instantly does it? Oh, he had me. I thought he had it.
He knows how to sell. He knows how to sell. That's for sure. We don't need... Oh, the Kita. That's the writing on the wall, if I've ever seen it. It's the Kita. I think you play the Kita here. I don't think you have a reason
I don't know, Zach. I don't know. Adding more lore, completely wiping your opponent's board, returning the aerial to your hand. I don't agree with this play. I don't know.
I don't agree with returning the aerial at this point. You got to, I mean, if you're doing the math on the lore, you're going to gain 1.
You're just replaying it.
Yeah. It's true.
It's just infinite value. I think it just like locks it in. You have the Diablo, so you might as well. Like at this point, I think every single song he plays, he's going to be bouncing that aerial and replaying it. It's just like pure advantage.
Yeah, and the cards are being scooped up on DeCandio's side. So if you're just joining us, this was game 2 of the series, and the game score is now tied up 1-1. But DeCandio gets to go first, and we saw cards like Happy, and we saw cards like Seven Dwarves Mine, and I think being on the play is very scary for KAWA. So the Sir Hiss, I think, always gets eaten up by the mine. I think that card's hard to really stick on the board against that deck. And the Daisy doesn't even kill Daisy. That's always been my biggest worry about Sir Hiss. Even when you move it to the Cove, it just doesn't feel right. What I would think KAWA would like to find, is that 2-drop Ursula. Not even finding a song isn't the worst, but having a little bit of a body could help. And you probably imagine a low curve, and you're perfectly time removable. But what else?
So he didn't keep the Storm Cindy in the last game when he was on the draw, which It's interesting. It might be something worth keeping. Like, that's how these games are interesting when you have the Ursulas. It's like, if he has the Ursula on turn 2, it's absurd. Otherwise, it's not. So, like, when I played Emerald Steel in Atlanta, the mirror match, I was always mulliganing away my songs, and my opponents weren't yet. People just weren't on to that idea yet. But if if I didn't realize that they weren't on it, like if we were both on that idea, them not doing it could be beneficial. Like, uh, because if I think they're mulling their songs away, I don't play my Ursula on turn 2, then they get to keep their songs, right? So it's like this weird third layer type thing where it's like DeCandio was mulling in a manner to not get punished by something, and KAWA didn't draw that thing and instead drew the opposite, which punished him for playing around the first play, right? So it's just like it's a trap for better players sometimes. And sometimes it's just like, well, it doesn't matter if it's a trap, you have to do it because one blowout's bigger than the other, right? It's like, sure, he didn't have the Ursula 2, but I still had cards to play. And then he didn't draw the removal top decks until it was too late, right? He drew them after the Under the Sea, like before he could take care of the Diablo or the Ariel, which are both very easily answered with DeCandio's removal suite.
Yes, the mind games that are added to this is extraordinary, and it even starts to surface more where we see a list that played no Ursula 2 drop, but I couldn't help but think that in a closed deck list format, you would always play around the 2 drop Ursula. You're always putting away your songs, so we're getting to this point where you're removing cards that people would expect you to play because they're going to play around it anyway. And I love that about this game. So we're getting started in the third and final game. BDeCandio's hand, pre-Mulligan. I've not seen what we were talking about wanting to find outside of the Seven Dwarves mine, but you got no one drop, and I think that's what's needed, right? He's got to find the one drop. So we have 4 uninkables, and I don't know how many you can risk keeping.
I don't think you can risk the Rapunzel even, sadly. Like, you want to, but you can't.
Right.
Oh,
and it's
that's a good hand, I think.
That's what you would love to see as an Amber Seal enjoyer, an Amber Steel goon, and this happy, I think, is an incredible inclusion in the mine decks. Checking Diablo, being able to put damage on the genie and finishing it off, I think, is super crucial. So I'm a big fan. So if you guys are here from the Lorcana Goon side and you're on our market watches, get your foil happies, guys. get your foil knights.
Yeah, it's interesting. I bought foil mines and happies very early because I played with the mine at the pre-release, and I drafted knights, and I was like, wow, this is like insanely powerful and limited, like, and kind of well costed. Let's try it and construct it. I'm gonna at least build a 7 dwarves knight deck for fun, right? And it wasn't good. But I did buy foil of those, and because I looked through and I was like, man, there's just not very many good foil knights. I mean, obviously Doc is insane. Big fan of Doc.
Right.
I've invested some money in Doc, and that's paid off for me, I think, pretty well.
Right.
But yeah, you really need to, if you're gonna jump on the foil bandwagon, you have to buy them early and cheap.
That's a
Before
good
they
point.
spike up.
That's a good point. And there's some characters that you wouldn't expect to be knights that are knights. I know the Pyeslinger Donald Duck is a knight. The Anna Truehearted is a knight, but none of these cards are in either player's decks. We're seeing an inked Strength of a Raging Fire, and we have a decision to make with our turn 1. Do we play Cindy or do we play Happy?
I think interesting. I guess he's probably going to ink. So he inked 1 strength, so he's probably then going to ink the next strength and then ink the Cindy, and that's his game plan.
He
It's
might
one game
play the
plan.
mine on turn 2, like you mentioned previously, to be able to shoot down anything on turn 3. It's like it
Yep.
does 2 damage to things already, but it doesn't go away,
Oh yeah.
and that might happen. So 1 drop Diablo, we get to see the hand,
It
and
could be so so he plays the happy instead of the Cindy, right? So if he played Cindy, there's a world that KAWA doesn't play the Diablo because he knows it can just get shot down highly, and then he like plays a more conservative game where he inks the Diablo, he inks the Sir Hiss, and he tries to rely on the aerial and the dad blast. But playing the happy incentivizes the same play pattern as last game, where
exactly.
yep, so he's gonna ink that, he's gonna ink the storm to play around Ariel or Ursula, the
Exactly.
squid with Ariel's voice. And he'll play the mine because he's and like so this kind of baited it, right? Because now KAWA can't just sit with it and play.
Oh,
And he has the
exactly.
dock in hand too. So as long as he doesn't accidentally play into this dad blast, but the Pete draw, I think prevents that. Like I'm assuming next turn he inks Cindy, plays Pete. Next turn inks one of the 2 cards, plays Smee and Doc, and maybe refreshes. Although that's kind of scary because if you play Doc directly into, they just dad blast away the cards you draw. So I'm
Yeah.
interested to see how he plays out his next few turns.
So we saw KAWA find Prince John, which is a character I don't think he found at all in his previous games. And in my little testing I did last night, this card was pivotal in closing out some of the characters like Mr. Smee and Lawrence and Pluto in combination with the Bruno. But getting the draws of every discard, I think, is crucial. If they get stuck with cards that they wanted to need to discard with Doc, you're drawing cards off of that too. So it might come down, or we might see the aerial come down on the following turn. I'm not too sure if we play that Diablo here. It's gonna get shot down by the mine, but I
Yeah,
like
we're not
his
shifting yet.
decision to
I
play the Sir Hiss tier 2. It does allow him to
I
diversify
really
the decision.
I really hope he doesn't shift. I'm assuming he's playing Sir Hiss to be like, well, let's hope you don't have any other dwarves, and he's just hoping that he moves the happy there.
Oh, we see a clap from BDeCandio. I wonder what that means. KAWA's facial reaction can maybe tell us a little bit of a
I'm I'm
story.
I'm listening right now, and he was saying something
Oh,
about like if you're happy and you know it because he has the happy in play.
BDeCandio is a corny guy, and I am here for it. I love it. He's
Whoa!
shifting the Diablo. What? So clap your hands again, BDeCandio, because I'd be happy if I were you. I'd be very
I
happy
mean,
about.
yeah,
Why
he
did
gets
he
to draw
do
a
this?
card. He's just trying to take out the mine as fast
You
as he
have,
can.
and you just discarded
But
Under
this
the
is
Sea.
But this is I think this was quite the issue because now he could literally just move Happy to the mine, shoot Sir Hiss, and then just trade the Happy with the Diablo.
Exactly. And so if he does decide, uh,
Whoa.
wait.
Interesting.
Whoa.
KAWA also was a little surprised.
I'm not too sure what's going on right now because that Sir Hiss is still in play.
He
It would
probably
have
just doesn't care.
maybe he's just understanding that you
So,
can shoot it down by moving any character into the mine,
yes.
just not just a knight. But I
And
don't
he's
know
like, if
about this
you want to
decision.
trade with it, if you want to trade your thing, whatever. And he's just like, deal. If you want to put my mine at 5 damage, I don't care. Like, because all of the characters with ward that he can't take out before they trade with mine, those characters all he once exerted so he can challenge them down, right? It's a little scary. He is running out of resources, but at the same time, KAWA, like, I think KAWA's gonna have to ink Bruno and then probably play John, and then hope to draw an inkable next turn so he can ink and play Dad Blast and draw 2 cards, or if DeCandio has a Pete, which he plays 4 of. We know he does, but if he does, he still has the aerial, play the aerial, draw an inkable, and ink that. If he doesn't hit an inkable, or if a Pete comes down, he still has alternate plays. It's unfortunate for KAWA, but I think that's the out. He might also just play the Diablo and be like, hey, you don't have... Like, if he goes Diablo and then trades in... Okay, here we go. We're going for the air over it. He's not going to go for the Dad Blast line.
It's all right. We like to go gambling here. And he chose to ink the Bruno, too. Yeah, this aerial is going to make BDeCandio believe he might play the Pete here. I think the Pete might come down, but we have the ability to sing with Cindy, damage the aerial, move Cindy to the mine, get rid of the aerial. Happy can then challenge into the Surhis. This might be where BDeCandio wanted to be right now. And we're going to be drawing for turn a Piglet, the almighty pig. Piglet is not a knight, I don't think, right? It's just a...
The problem is, I think DeCandio is going to lose his hand now. But that is a very good draw. So he could play that mine.
Move it over. Go back and forth.
DeCandio is going to lose his hand. And it's...
Well, next level play, ink, pass. Play around Dad Blast, right?
Maybe. I think the mine is still worth it.
Yeah. And KAWA's shaking his head. I don't think he wants to be in this position. He's forced to make a decision here. If he gives up his turn to rip BDeCandio's cards out of his hand, then he's giving up the ability to do anything to the rest of the board. And he's playing Prince John. Like I said,
Prince John first for sure.
Yeah.
So if he rips DeCandio's hand, Prince John is dead.
That's true.
And with double mine in play, he can still deal 2 damage to
that's a disgusting move right here.
Into another
other Pete. You know, when it's your day, it's your day. And I have to admit, this one is looking like it's DeCandio's, but the next card here could change it. Muses. This was an important card in the second game for KAWA, and he understands its role now. Do you get rid of this mine? Or do you just say it doesn't matter because you have warded characters on play? Like, you don't know the Pete's in BDeCandio's hand here. So you're thinking that there's just a world where you can find the cards needed later on to deal with the mines. It's getting those 2 passive lore return, but he's not representing too much, but it's going to start picking up a lot sooner than later. The Happy for turn, I think, is an interesting card, being another knight.
There wasn't even, like, he could have... I guess he couldn't even have sang a song to bounce. So, yeah, I don't think he even takes down the mine. I think he just has to hope that he hits another warded singer and then Under the Sea and a key. Like, he has ways to not lose this game. There's just not very many. And this Pete and Happy is...
And it's... I love that KAWA has his face here. I'm loving the reactions. You know, we do get to ask him why he's deciding to shift Diablo. I also think we have to ask BDeCandio why he didn't do the Surhis takedown play.
Yeah. KAWA definitely wants to know that too. Although, based on what happened in this game, I think we found out why he didn't.
Right. Now, are you trading into the Cindy with the Muses? I don't think you can risk giving up your whole board. You can't play an action.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Goes up to 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's 18. The mines are going to gain the 2.
He has to hope that BDeCandio doesn't empty his hand and or play he needs to hope this doesn't happen.
Well,
Now
yeah,
the
he's
game's over.
he's shooting it down. Yep, it's not going to happen.
Now he can take down one mine, but he can't do everything else.
Can draw 2 cards all you want. He's leaving the 2 cards in his hand to be discarded.
Had a timer set to do ads, but I think the game went so fast that I think we can be lucky and skip that ad block.
For all those watching that have Twitch Prime or is subscribed to the lovely Twitch channel and can still be with us during these ad breaks, the game is going in BDeCandio's favor 100% of the time here, and there wasn't a card I think KAWA could have drawn to really help him, even if he just rips both of these cards out of the hand. He decides not to play the sudden chill first, knowing muses can bounce back and still have 2 cards to rip afterwards. But he finds an aerial, but you can't sing Under the Sea. You can't do anything about getting rid of the locations. There's too much lore in play. He just wants to see the cards on top of his deck, and I don't blame him.
Yeah. It's not a good spot. Looks like BDeCandio is going to be taking another one down for North America.
Right, and the game will end there. We're going to have our ability to interview the players in just a moment, but the game sort of like there was some interesting decisions made by both these players for sure, and I'm very, very much wondering if we're going to have we're going to be able to understand why these players made these decisions. And who knows, it could just be because it's early for them. KAWA just got off of work, and not everyone's able to really think about all the decisions in the moment. We can see it, objectively and being from the third person point of view, but to be able to think of all these plays in the moment is easier said than done, for sure.
All right. Yeah, I can hear you. Zach, you should unmute yourself so you can hear and chit chat.
All right. Good games, guys.
What?
Should be.
Yes. It's the first one written down, Zach. Was it oh yes, the first one written down, Zach. Was it
all right,
yes.
KAWA, we got a question for you. But first off, I want to say good games from both of you guys. We love being able to cast amazing players and playing amazing games. But KAWA, you shifted the Diablo turn 2, game 2 with a happy in play. Can you go into what made you make that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I shifted the Diablo because, I looked at the hands. There was no removal for the moment. I knew by shifting the Diablo, it would only come into his 2-ink turn, so there's not much that he could have done. So I didn't find much harm in just actually shifting the Diablo and having it there already. So yeah, there was no real advantage because I wasn't going to quest with it, but it was just to kind of get the body on board. And yeah, it's set up pretty well because then I had the Diablo and the aerial. If the Diablo doesn't get interacted with, then it's just going to be sitting there ready for the aerial under the sea play. So there wasn't much reason to it. There's probably a fair argument to just not do it, but you might be able to remember more, Brennan, but I don't think I did a turn. I think I shifted the Diablo and that was it. So I think I just decided I'd rather do that to get the 3 cost card down, rather than literally just do nothing, right?
Yeah, you almost played the sudden chill. You almost played the sudden chill.
Yeah. I guess the argument is that you can just make the shift line the following turn for the same cost without maybe discarding a different card. But it definitely opened you up to not too much on that specific turn from my perspective. There's no
Yeah,
Cinderella
yeah.
to sing, so like as long as you knew at the following turn that you're probably going to do it, which I couldn't really quest into your Diablo because if you have Paint the Roses or Cove, then like I just get eaten, so like I have to leave mine upright into that exchange. And I was definitely afraid of Under the Sea on that turn. I think I drew the mine the turn after turn 2 at down turn 3, so I couldn't like play it on turn 2 to threaten Diablo in any way. So like that was a little bit hiccup. I played 2 daisies instead. But yeah,
you drew the rages basically the turns after they could have done anything. That is how it goes sometimes. And then the other question was for BDeCandio, correct? I do believe that was my mind went blank. We had the KAWA's facial expression also during this part. You decided not to trade your happy with the Diablo. You decided to shoot the happy instead of shooting the hiss and trading. Did you want to explain why? I mean, I think we kind of realized why based on your next few turns plays, but if you want to go through your thoughts there.
Yeah, so it's the exchanges I can take on a following turn, and he can take on his turn the same way. The downside is him singing something, but like it was just a sudden chill would be the only thing they could really sing that mattered in that situation, really. I figured the only games I was going to lose from that like position was when he played like a 3 into abuses into something else. So like there was no room for him to play a 1 cost card to really challenge the location at any point. So like it being on 5, it was functionally the same as like 4 for me in a lot of ways. And I feel like I just wanted the extra couple of points of lore is how I felt at it. I knew I could take the trade and exchange things, but also if I happened to draw another mine, which I ended up doing at some point, but that was after the happy had traded like the following turn. But I just wanted the extra, I think, lore there. I didn't really care about the 3 extra points on that from that point. Because again, if he like goes like any other, if he doesn't play essentially an Aerial or a Diablo or a Prince John on turn 3, and only one of those he kind of wants to challenge with, not even that much, like the Diablo. I guess Diablo is the example. If he doesn't play one of those next turn, like I feel like I'm going to win anyway. Whereas that just can't put the last point that I can just make, that change next turn for with the same kind of moving of the mine if I needed to, or just trading the happy. But yeah, just the 1 lore.
Okay.
I think it makes sense, looking back on it, because I think it makes perfect sense when you say that, your mind being on 5 is basically doesn't really matter because I never really want to be trading. I think at the time I was like, oh, you're letting me just hit your mind for 3, but essentially it doesn't really matter that much, right? So
it's the Storm and Cindy as well, so like you're able to then commit more characters and then sing the next turn.
I think I drew the Storm the next turn when I played the Cindy. I think I drew the Storm. Maybe I was the turn.
You didn't play Cindy on that same turn? I thought you
I played on turn 3.
And played.
Yeah, I moved to play Cindy. I had the Storm on that turn.
Yeah. And that's why I was saying to Brennan, I think my misplay was I had the John in hand, so I regret not play. I played the Aerial instead of playing the John. I think if I played the John, I mean, granted, he had the 2 mines in the end, so it wouldn't have mattered too much. But I think even just playing the John would have been maybe okay, because there's the 1 to finish off the mines. Sure, I never really want to attack with my John, but then there's the opportunity for me to do John into You've Forgotten Me. But either way, it's like, do I play around one thing or the other? He could have just went Pete, and then I wasn't going to get much advantage out of that. But I don't know.
Yeah, we were discussing your lines, and we're like, well, he's probably going to ink the Bruno, and then my thought was that you would play John, and then next turn, if you drew an ink, then you Dad Blast. If you don't draw an ink, you can play, or if you don't draw an ink or he plays Pete, you can play Aerial to then either look for the ink or just do something because of the Pete. And you played the Aerial, and I was like, well, he's smarter than me, so we'll see what he's doing.
Oh, no, I'm definitely not. Don't worry.
It's just a judgment call, right? Like you just making them over and over again in this game. It's like playing the odds and certain card effects happening. And maybe it's better for me to like him play the Aerial to prompt a Pete in some ways, so that I guess I gotta have Storm too with this name play in the mine. But that's what ended up happening. But like him making me use my Pete's earlier is pretty good for him trying to set up like Kyoto turns with Under the Sea to sweep the board. It's like because like me timing Pete is kind of crucial in this game if it can happen. Obviously, Succession is great, but at the perfect time, it's just kind of backbreaking. I think I messed up on that last turn. I think I didn't need to I think I could have played out
One
another
of
character
them.
at the end. Because if he makes me discard 2, it doesn't actually matter, and he can't actually under the sea me, so I probably could just play the Calhoun.
Yeah.
But like I also thought
Mhm.
that if he played You Have Forgotten Me, I could not lose, so it didn't really matter then either.
Yeah, it's like you're influencing
Yeah.
to make the play that wins you the game, right? And it looks
Yeah.
too good not to take. And then
I mean-
I think I saw that with like you had the Kawa had a Muses exerted and you had a Lawrence in play. And we're like, Kawa just needs him to trade so the game goes on longer because this was during game 1.
Yeah.
And it looked like a very rough game the whole way out. You didn't see a 1 drop. The
Yeah.
early start from Candio, I think, sealed the deal there. But if Candio, may I ask, there was decisions you chose to ink Lilo, and Luke and I were talking about maybe keeping it in hand against discard decks as a free discard.
Nah.
Did you? No, don't think it was worth it.
No, that's not what Lilo's for. Lilo is just a card that's good against Be Prepared. Like, to think it's a free card to discard in most matchups is kind of silly, I think.
Okay.
I think
there
you'd
to
rather
be-
just
The-
ink the card, right?
The
Yeah.
turn that I had mentioned it, you had inked it, but you kept 2 cards in hand, and there was like a world that he could have made you discard it or discarded 1 card based off a song. And my thought
Sure.
process was that if you're going to end up inking the Lawrence to play Doc possibly next turn, that maybe keeping the Lilo, so if he does hit you with the discard, it gives you like a point of advantage. But we also discussed that like Lilo's also not very good here because Under the Sea's the board wipe, right?
Yeah.
And Lilo's not good there. So it's
And
like,
Lawrence checks that. Like, yeah, my only concern at that
Yep.
point is Under the Sea. Like, even if I spend all this time discarding it, bringing it back, then he's Under the Seas, and it was like, well, that was kind of pointless. Where like Lawrence, he actually has to have something else as well to deal with. So, yeah, I don't really value Lilo very highly in matchups that don't involve Be Prepared, really. But it's fine to play because it's still just a 2 lore character that you just play out, and is good sometimes, and is good when you're trying to race and trade and force them to like essentially you spend some ink, they lose some lore, kind of how it turns out to be most of the time. But yeah, Lilo's good. I mean, it just sometimes it's ink, and that's fine.
yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons she's good is that she
Yeah.
is inkable. Like,
You could say that about 90% of the cards in this game.